You got one choice, boy. Sex or the saw. Sex is, well, nobody knows. But the saw is family. It's family? Wait till Granddad hears about this.
Happy Devil's Night, and welcome to What Makes It Scary, a seasonal podcast unleashing the fear behind your favorite and not-so-favorite horror movies. I'm your host, Jody Henderson of Clever Girl Effects Studios. Aw, that's like the last time that I'll get to say that. Aw. And with me, as always, is Alex Vincent of Mr. Ed Productions. Oh, God! No, seriously, why?
I have a chainsaw. We're ready to go. Starting off strong. Hello, it's the Texas Chainsaw.
Well, I need new pants.
I have been dreaming about this bit since we decided to do this episode.
Asshole!
Oh no, you're
Do you have a camera in here?
No.
'Cause that's terrifying.
That was so good. I was thinking, all right, I need to find the chainsaw. It's a fake chainsaw. It's a prop
it's
one.
my prop. It's my chainsaw.
I snuck it into this room so you wouldn't know it's here.
You are such a jerk.
Today we're talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Not anymore. We're talking about Jody's stroke life now.
Oh, wow. That was good.
You got me so good.
This movie, I think, is a really good kind of poetic rhyming with the Halloween that we did for Halloween last year.
I agree.
They kind of go hand in hand when you talk about horror movies. I'm sorry. It was
I'm
just
seriously so
irresistible.
Good job.
I'm so glad that went off without a hitch. Okay, back in it. So we have been watching these movies. I gotta say, there's some terrible, terrible movies in here. In this list.
Yes.
There are some bad movies.
And there are, I'll just get right down to it, the scariest movie I have ever seen.
But one of them is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In one of these movies, it is the scariest movie I have ever seen.
Do you want to say what it is first?
Yeah, I mean, we can just I'm sure I've mentioned it before on this podcast. It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 reboot.
Right. The one that everybody calls the Jessica Biel one.
Yeah, because it's true.
Yeah.
That's what I refer to it as. But like that, like when people ask me like, what's the scariest movie you've ever seen? That is it. And like, I know people can like read it on my face how scared I truly am of that. We tried watching this movie. It must have been 2-3 years ago. You'd never seen it.
I'd never seen this one, and we sat down.
You'd never seen any of them at this point, I believe?
At this point, maybe. But we sat down to watch this one because you had said it's the scariest movie.
And I wanted to watch it with you because I thought watching it with you would make me less scared of it.
Yeah. We started the movie, and you were immediately just in a bad mood. Not even in a deliberately like, oh, I hate this movie kind of way.
No.
It was more subtle than that. It was just like you were just snappy and like and mad, and it was like, are you okay? And you're like, this movie it stresses me out. You get uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah, it's just so deep psychosis with me. Because
you watched it young.
I watched it very young. I want to say maybe 10.
Okay.
I watched it very young. I watched it on vacation with... and by vacation, I mean camping.
Yeah.
In a RV, old style RV.
That's a bad place to watch one of these movies.
Watched it at night with my sister and my cousin Mitch.
Okay.
And they are both 4 years older than me, so like they have a little better grasp on reality than I ever have. I've never had a really good grasp when I was younger on reality of like what's fake and what's real and regarding movies and stuff like that. Yeah. But like, that was the worst night.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't say it's the worst night of my life, but like it was bad. Like so bad that like, you know, you can't sleep, you're tossing and turning.
Right.
My dad is not in the camper. He's outside in the tent. I literally got up and like went and slept like with him. Cause I was just like, I don't know what it was. Probably because you watch it in that area and then you can't be there anymore.
Yeah, makes
but
sense.
No joke, woke up the next morning to, I believe it was a weed whacker.
Oh no!
But like it's that sound. So like that instantly like had me. And I associate so much with that movie too. There's this song It's called like
Sweet
Whiskey.
Home Alabama?
No, Whiskey Lullaby. No, my sister associates Sweet Home Alabama with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, but like there's this. It's called Whiskey Lullaby, and it must have come out in 2003 because it was on the radio all the time. So whenever I hear that, I associate that with Texas Chainsaw, and then this campground, and it's showers, because, like, you're super vulnerable in the shower.
Oh, sure.
So I'm like...
Well, there's a loud... the shower is loud when you're under it, and it's chainsaw-like. It's like... And you're like,
so, like, a lot of things, I have very much PTSD from this movie.
Yeah.
And I've held it for a long time.
So most people have, I would say, healthier associations with horror movies where maybe they're scared of them, but for you it feels more like a...
It's only this movie, really, that does this.
Because we watched, like, the original one. We watched all these movies, and you were, like, fine with them.
Yeah,
obviously,
it was fine.
when scenes were stressful or scary, but you weren't like,
No, it's just so deep-rooted, and I just find that Leatherface to be the most scary.
Yeah.
So...
Well, we'll get into it. My history with the movies, I hadn't seen any of them. I think this came first. We watched this version. And then I was like, oh, I'm kind of into these movies. This is when I was getting into horror a couple years ago in a more substantial way. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want to take these in. The 3D one, the one from 2013, I think, was on Netflix. And I watched...
Yes, and I wanted to watch that. And I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Oh, yeah, because you were scared. So I watched it by myself. I really liked it, actually. Watching it again, I'm a little more sour on it. But at the time, I liked it a lot. I tried to watch the original, and it was so boring. And I was like, wow, it was so like old and dated that I couldn't watch it again. This was when I was younger, a couple years ago, not too much younger. But I've definitely gained more an appreciation for older movies. And so watching it for this, I was like, okay, I like this now. But... that first time, I was like, ooh, this is a slog. And I wasn't doing it for a podcast or anything, so it was hard to...
really focus on it.
Yes, stay focused. So I was like, maybe not for me, moved on. But I then, actually, it's funny that this became our movie for this, because when quarantine hit earlier this year, I was like, I'm going to watch all the Texas Chainsaw movies. And I specifically remember it was during quarantine because you were home all the time with me. And I was like, well, I can't watch these next to Jody, like laying in bed or whatever, because she'll see it and be like,
freaked out,
So I had to find a spot in the basement to carve out and set my laptop on.
Well, there's so much shit in our basement.
Yeah,
it's from our apartment.
Packed. It's from the apartment, plus you use it as storage because you don't really come down here all that much.
So you couldn't even see him.
Yeah, I was hidden.
My parents constantly would be like, oh my God, he's like down here, because he's just like in a little alcove that he carved out of all of the stuff.
They would sometimes turn the lights off on me when they came down. And I'm like, I'm still here. And they're like, oh. So it's been an interesting journey. And then, of course, we watched them for this. I enjoy this series for how weird it is.
I find them fascinating.
I do too.
This was the first time that I'd seen the classic one. And I had always heard that they were very mentally exhausting.
I would say that's fair. Mentally exhausting is a good word.
Think that was built up too much in my head.
Yeah.
Or I was just very well prepared for it.
Sure.
If I had gone into it blind like I did with that one episode of Game of Thrones, the Battle of the Bastards, I'd probably be like, enough!
Right. You got very stressed out watching that.
Oh, that's a very... I hate that episode.
The scene where there's a crowd swarming.
Yeah, because it's just so long and I'm just like, I'm over it.
Right, I'm stressed
You've already made me feel what I need to feel. Now let's move on.
And I would say Texas Chainsaw, yeah, you're right, built up so you're more prepared for it. But it does a very similar thing, especially towards the end with the Sally scene. It's very like, when will this end? Even for me, who I've talked about how I don't care for suspense, especially when I'm like, I don't care about these characters, even if they're good, I just don't care, and it'll be a jump scare or whatever. But when I am able to just kind of turn it off, I don't really care. When I'm just, not the movie, I mean like my brain, when I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a long scene where somebody goes into a room and is like, hello, and turns lights on for like 45 minutes, it feels like. I'll just turn my brain off. The dinner scene is a good example. Yeah,
I'm not impressed by any of ththese dinner scenes. And impressed is the wrong word to use there. They don't affect me as much as I thought they would.
Yeah. Well, that's good because...
Probably because the reboot didn't have a dinner scene.
Right, so you're like, this isn't canon.
You're like this, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the depravity knows no bounds of this series.
I agree.
It's pretty bad.
So this came out before Halloween.
Absolutely. Halloween was 78,
I believe so.
This movie was 74. So 4 years before.
This came out before Star Wars.
I know. That's why it's so weird.
Yeah.
This came out, when did Jaws come out? Was that 73?
Yes.
Okay, so this came out after Jaws, which is, what's interesting to think about that is what makes Spielberg great, is there's a polish to Jaws that makes it feel like a modern movie. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I like this movie. I want to say that.
Yeah. It's not polished.
Right, it's not polished. It feels like, this is what I imagine 70s movies are.
Yeah,
They're like
you're right.
gritty
You're
and
absolutely
raw,
right.
and the editing is weird, and the sound is weird. And, like, we don't give Spielberg enough credit, but when he came along, he made movies palatable for people. Like when Spielberg made Jaws, that was like, and the reason that became such a huge hit was because people were like, oh, I can watch this and understand the characters.
Well, you care about the characters.
Yeah, you care about them.
It's so hard to care about any of these characters.
It is
from
because,
Halloween.
Right.
Jason.
Well, they're so non-characters that if they have a personality trait, it's like their one thing, and that's just what they carry with them. Or sometimes it's even like costume or design, like Jerry from the original.
Yeah, just that 70s like whip around me.
Yeah, whip around me. Big hair and like the glasses and everything.
Yeah.
It's like I'm the 70s one.
Yeah.
So, Spielberg, very good. Not talking about those movies though. Talking about the OG.
Man, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
We're going to spend some time talking about 3 of them a lot.
Yeah.
And then we're going to glance over the rest of them. Go and watch them.
Absolutely. If anything.
It's like we said when we were watching Dracula movies or vampire movies. It's like a study of film history.
It really, really is. This first movie is so important and so influential in terms of horror. The second one I just think is like a really good movie. I enjoy a lot. And then the rest of them, you can watch them and just both laugh and
cry.
I just feel like, it's fallen so far. The original is such an important, like, godfather of horror.
Yeah.
And to see it in the span of, I would say, the third movie is just such a huge letdown.
Third's a dud, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, how did it fall so far? And then the fourth one, my God.
That's just on crack.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. Okay.
First of all, I just have to point out that we were watching these movies, and what did my dad say? He like came into the room and he was like, "I'm not from Texas, but I own a chainsaw," and then like walked out.
Yeah, he just walked. We're like, all right, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Do you want to come on our podcast and?
So I had always heard that these were true events.
Oh, right.
And I heard that they took place in Wisconsin.
I heard this too because
I told you this.
You did, and you were like, it's even scarier because
we're
the
closer,
real events happen even closer than
we're
Texas.
Close to Wisconsin, but nobody would ever watch Wisconsin Chainsaw Massacre, so that's why they made it in Texas.
They would think it was cheese carving competition, which to be fair,
head cheese,
a better movie. Head cheese, nice. Yeah, I don't. This movie's not based on true events. It is.
No, but you would swear it is.
Right. It is inspired by Ed Gein, of course.
Yes.
He was a famous serial killer from the 50s, 60s, and he he did the body.
I was gonna say we didn't talk about him too much. He inspired Psycho as well. We did not talk about him at all during that episode. So go ahead and explain that to our audience.
Well, Ed Gein inspired pretty much every instance of a serial killer in horror. Sounds of the Lambs is another great example of Buffalo Bill of the Ed Gein. I believe I want to say this. This was the first like sensational, popular American serial killer was Ed Gein. I know that there were people like Jack the Ripper and everything like that.
Those were English.
I'm talking about America here. All right. I don't care about any of your pompous British serial killers. All right. But Ed Gein, it was a huge news story that, and it was so depraved. He would like dig up corpses and use their bodies in furniture. It's disgusting. And I'm not a huge fan of this like almost fetishizing serial killers that a lot of people like to do these days, where they're like obsessing over them. I don't like this. If they're real, it's gross and icky, and I don't like it. If they're fake, go for it. But Ed Gein went, like, because of nobody had ever thought of something like this before. The idea of somebody who was a normal citizen in society, but was secretly a serial killer and doing these horrible things. And that inspired directly Psycho, a normal person, Norman Bates, who is just like, hi, what's up? I have a crush on you. I'm a little awkward around my mother. Also, I'm going to kill you because, there's mental illness stuff, which is another aspect of these movies. But, and that was, Ed Gein inspired all these things. That's what I'm saying. And more directly with the body stealing and using for parts is the Texas Chainsaw angle.
Right. Well, let's get into this first movie.
The year's 1974.
So iconic,
Richard
yes.
Nixon, I believe he's been impeached at this point. He's out.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm terrible at years of presidents.
Yeah, I don't know the years. So Nixon was late 60s. I feel like he was gone at this point. Reagan was around the bend a couple years later.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so we get this movie. It instantly starts with a text crawl.
Yeah.
And this voiceover that...
Deep voice.
That... it started and I instantly went, no.
Yeah, you were just like, nope.
It's so scary.
It's a very... And this intro...
This is what just makes me break out in a sweat, because I'm instant like, these are true events and it really happened.
We told, in a couple episodes ago, we told the story. You had mentioned that kind of scary urban legend about like, we don't have well, we were talking about the Hook, but we're like, we don't have a clown statue or whatever. And I said that was a really scary like story to me because of its presentation. And that is such an important aspect of any kind of creepy element is how it's presented. This movie knows that, and it's like dead, gravelly, serious voice is going to tell you about a horrible thing happened to these kids, and like their lives were changed forever, the survivors anyway. And you're just like, oh, even if I don't see the rest of this movie, I'm going to remember this.
Yeah, I'm going to think
scary.
of those poor people.
Yeah. So it really gets going
So
immediately.
I instantly was like, oh, no, thank you. It opens. Okay, so first of all, I was eating.
Right. You can't eat while watching these movies.
I know. I've never been able to eat during scary movies because they're gross. And I'm so susceptible to
grossness.
Gratuity. I get nauseous walking through like a Spirit Halloween.
Right.
Because the smell of latex and the just gruesomeness of some of the costumes, it makes me ill. Makes
you ill, yeah. So you were like...
so I asked you, and I had food that I was so excited to eat.
Yeah.
I think I had like shrimp Alfredo or something. And I was like, I want to eat this. I can eat it really fast, and then we could start the movie. And you were just chomping at the bit, and you're like, you'll be fine.
The beginning of this movie's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't get gross until later on. Turns out the worst part of the movie is the beginning. The rest of it, there's not really much by way of gore and stuff.
I could have ate it later.
But no, it starts with these like police photos of like crime scenes and
just
body parts.
Just these decaying, molded, wrinkly, wet, moist bodies. And I looked at you with dagger eyes.
Say that again a little slower, will you?
No.
I'm enjoying this.
I just hated you. I was like, God damn it, Alex. You said it wasn't going to be gross.
And I was so sorry. But at the same time, you know what? I'm not sorry because we got to watch a good movie.
We did. So it starts out with those Polaroids. It's got that noise that everybody uses.
Yeah, it's like that.
And it's really fucking annoying. Yeah.
It's I think this was just a very stylized version of just flashbulb photography because they do have that.
So then we have a voiceover of a radio broadcast from the sheriff's department saying that there has been these bodies being dug up at this cemetery and it's being investigated pretty much.
Right.
All of that while...
there's this
human decaying scarecrow
it's like a shrine.
Yeah, that like we're like super close in on and then like fades out and you see it's in all this like disformed bodiedness.
The whole nice. Yeah. The whole beginning of this movie is setting up just a bleak and desolate world. The radio guy is just kind of announcing all these crimes and these horrible things that have happened while you're seeing this display of debauchery and horrificness in front of you with the dead bodies. It really goes a long way in setting up kind of what the filmmakers' philosophy was with what they were trying to say with this movie. Because we're not going to get too into this because that's not what this podcast is. But like this was during the 70s where America was just in this desolate, bleak place because of like Vietnam and Nixon and everything. We're just like, I'm just so tired. Like things weren't shiny and cool anymore. Things were bleak.
I think that's important to say, especially in the next movie about how much like Vietnam like really influences a lot of this. So we move on from that. Yep. We actually start on the road. We get a close up of a dead armadillo.
Oh yeah, which was real.
What did I say? I said I bet that's a goddamn real armadillo because we're playing by Friday the 13th rules and killing snakes and
remember that snake?
And I almost said Freddie Prinze Jr.
Wow.
Freddy Krueger. killing real birds, probably. And I said, I bet that's a real armadillo. We looked it up. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Not one that they, like, killed to, like, film.
That you know of.
That I know of. It's a taxidermy real armadillo.
Yeah. So,
it's roadkill is what it is. The van carrying our cast of characters drives by. We meet 5 70s people. They are 70s AF, especially Jerry. He's 70s. Driving the bus.
Yeah, we also have the main character, Sally.
Yes.
Sally Hardesty.
Yes.
And her brother, Franklin, who's in a wheelchair. And we also meet...
It says what did they say at the beginning? He's
invalid is the word they use, which probably isn't the best term to use.
Right. And well, that was another thing. I was like, so we're going to watch a mentally handicapped person? Like, I didn't understand.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, I think he's just in a wheelchair. But
it's not explained. He might be mentally handicapped.
This is what one thing that's kind of wrong with these movies is how they treat mental illness and stuff like that. And we'll get into it.
They make it this like other scary thing that like we talked about in the Psycho. But yeah. This is one of those things that in 70s movies, it was hard to kind of get a handle on the characters. Is Franklin supposed to be interpreted as mentally handicapped, or is he just
annoying?
Kind of an annoying, whiny, non-mentally handicapped person? It's hard to tell, but they are going on a trip to, I think they're going specifically to see if the Hardesty grandfather
has been dug up in the cemetery.
Right, because they heard about this newscast and they were like, we need to go to, because they're from this part of Texas.
Right. So we have Jerry who's driving the van, his girlfriend Sally, who's our main character, her brother Franklin, and then this other couple, Pam and Kirk.
Right, Pam and Kirk, who they're just kind of along for the ride.
Right.
They're just there. Yeah, and so that's them, and they're driving along, and they get to the graveyard. There's the Harbinger of Doom. There's the guy who's like, you're all gonna die. He's like,
I've seen some things.
He's drunk as a skunk. He's like rolling on the ground like,
everyone knows this guy. Everyone has someone like this in their family. Right,
or you are that person, and But, so I don't think they ever kind of resolve this.
No, they just keep moving on.
That's another thing about this movie is that it's done in a deliberately frustrating way in terms of resolution. There's very little resolution in this movie. A lot of like the backtracking, how they like go to the house so many times and like the bus driver that gets away. There's like hardly any kind of resolution or finality to this movie. It's part of what they were trying to do to make it feel more like just put you on edge.
Right.
And like, we never get a resolution to this graveyard scene.
So they move on. They're stopping for gas. They stop at this like barbecue pit, gas station, quick stop.
Yeah, they stop at this pit stop, and they're out of gas, which is a real thing that would go on at this time. Gas prices. I mean, gas was very not uncommon, but there was a lot of like strife and everything.
And the gas station's out of gas, says the guy who works there.
Right. The guy who works there, who we may or may not run into later in this movie.
Right. So they're like, well, supposedly our grandparents' old house is like right up the road. We'll just go and wait there.
Yeah, we'll go hang out. Have a good time.
So they go there. The house is desolated.
It's a nightmare of a place. It's falling apart. It's clearly abandoned.
Yeah.
There's a nest of spiders, but there's like so many of them, and they're huge spiders.
Only you would remember that. I completely forgot about that
I
scene.
hate this. This is the scariest thing in all of these movies to me. Is like it's like the Grudge hair scene, but with spiders. No, this is worse.
No, okay.
It's awful. But Franklin's upset because not only can he like not ascend the stairs or join everybody,
everyone runs upstairs.
They just leave him behind. Which,
he's annoying.
To be fair, he's very annoying. But, like, he's getting upset with it. He sees, like, this weird... It's like this bones on the ground. It's kind of almost like a shrine.
Yeah.
It's, like, done up. And, again, frustrating. We never find out if that was put there or if that was just, like, a dead body that just rotted.
Right. Pam and Kirk come down and they're like, hey, Franklin, didn't you say there was, like, an old creek out back that you would go swimming in? And he's like, yep, it's right between those two sheds or whatever.
It's right out between those two sheds or whatever. That's how he talks in this movie.
Right, pretty much. So they head out there, find that the creek is dried up.
Yeah. It's it's still there. It's like this ravine. It's kind of cool. They're like at the bottom of this kind of cliff.
But they see beyond that, they see like this big farm and they're like, oh, well, they definitely have gasoline.
Especially when they approach it and they see a generator running. So
Right.
they're like, oh, they probably have a backup gas somewhere, like Jerry cans. Jerry, he's in the movie.
Get his can over there and get some
Get
gas.
his can over there. So they kind of go up to the front of the thing. They find a tooth on the ground.
Yeah, this was crazy.
And Kirk like picks it up.
Yeah, and hands it to Pam, and Pam's like, eh, and like
drops
throws it.
it, yeah.
I said, I could tell you the surface of that filling that's in that tooth.
I think you literally said like, oh, that's an M23 or whatever, and I was like, wow.
I didn't say that. For those dental professionals out there, I believe it looked like a first molar.
Okay, great.
And it looked like an MODB filling, and the people out there, they'll know what that means.
Wow, well, I'm glad we have that on record. Somebody
Yeah.
make a note of that. It was
Yeah.
an E, what?
No.
No
Stop.
E, no letters?
No E.
All right. So she's upset. She goes...
I'm like, because we watch Monsters Inc. as well. 2319!
2319! Nice. She goes to sit on the porch swing, Evil Dead reference, this porch
Yeah,
swing.
totally an Evil Dead.
They knew. They were like, this movie's going to be big. So she goes, sits out there. He knocks on the door.
He just walks right in.
Well, he knocks
much.
on the door first. It swings open. It's not latched. So he's like, I guess I'll just enter this home.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. This was pre 9/11. It was a different world. So
yeah.
he walks in. He yells at Pam, and he's just like, "There's nobody in here." And he starts walking around, and he gets up to this door that he sees on the other side of it. Is like
It's almost like into a hallway.
Right. You can kind of see it branches off, but there's all these mounted deer heads and stuff.
Bones.
Yeah, and he's like, "Huh?" And then jumping out is Leatherface, the titular Leatherface.
And just it's like so quick.
It's a very sudden scene because he has this hammer, like this kind of cattle hammer, and just bashes him over the head. He's still alive for a second, like he's shuddering. I love it's scary, but I love
it's
it.
Scary.
Whenever you see a character suffer like a head trauma, and then they're just like
also
shaking.
just like the brute force.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thwack.
Yeah. And he
you're
goes down.
Yeah. Like that's what's like, wow. Like
Right.
the power that must come from behind.
And Leatherface is a big dude. You feel like there's so much weight behind
Yeah.
every movement that he has.
This honestly, I think is like the scariest part of the whole movie because it's just like, boom, you're dead. That guy probably didn't even know like.
Some would
Like
say
what
he got off
happened
easy.
to him? Yeah, that's what I'm like.
Right.
Me watching it, it's the scariest part. But yes, I agree. He got off easy because he didn't have to suffer.
And there's actually been a lot of analysis around the idea of like the final girl in movies being the only ones who are enlightened enough to know what kind of horror they're in, whereas all the other victims, it's very quick. They're like, something's there, and then they die.
Yeah.
But the only one who's enlightened, the only one who knows the situation,
is
the one who survives.
We had totally forgot to talk about the hitchhiker.
The hitchhiker!
Which is...
Nubbins.
Yeah, apparently his name's Nubbins. You never find that out.
I know. Second favorite character in this movie is Nubbins.
Who's the first? Leatherface?
The guy we saw at the gas station earlier.
Gotcha. Okay.
He's a wacko.
So on their way to the gas station, they had picked up this hitchhiker.
Mm-hmm.
Who did we say? First of all, we joked that it looked like Adam Driver. It doesn't.
Anyone with long black hair you think is Adam Driver.
You said it.
To be fair, I do too.
You said it.
He's also tall.
I said he looked like Justin Long.
He does look like Justin Long. If they
So-
were to remake this movie, like picture perfect, like the 1990s Psycho Vince Vaughn movie, if they were to do that with this movie, who would be Nubbins? Go.
I would say Justin Long.
I would say they would cast both Justin Long and Adam Driver in
And
every
like
shot.
morph them together.
Yeah, there you go. Have them move the exact same way. Do like the Social Network with the twins, like just map their faces. All right. But yeah, we forgot to talk about him.
He's a very interesting character. You can tell he has a couple of quote unquote screws loose. I know that's rude to say,
Probably.
but he's just kind of saying like, oh yeah, I work at the old meat factory that's just down the road. And
His whole family does.
I was going to say, and Franklin said, oh, my grandfather used to work there and starts telling about how they would kill the cows and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you hit them once with the hammer, or mallet, whatever you hit cows with. But the first strike never kills them. So you have to keep hitting them. And then they say, And then they moved on to the air cannons, and like that was more humane because it
This
killed
is
them
a direct
faster.
reference to the 2000, I believe, 8 movie No Country for Old Men. I don't know how this movie is so prophetic to reference all these future films.
Yeah, I
but
don't know.
They do it. There's a theory that the Hardesties, Franklin and Sally, are part Sawyer, or they're the Sawyers because of all these connections.
I believe that.
Plus-
I really do believe that.
Nubbins and Franklin both do the blowing raspberries thing, and it's like, are they trying to make this parallel?
Yeah. Well, it's just like Franklin's like weirdly like into how they kill these cows.
Yeah, he's like, they use this air gun to just boom, and then it sucks back up, and boom. He does it over and over again, and Nubbins is having none of it.
And then he's like, Franklin's like picking at his fingernails with a knife, which I know like we didn't have phones back then or whatever.
Yeah, he had
but
nothing
like,
to do, yeah.
Yeah. So like Nubbins like grabs the knife from Franklin, cuts his own hand,
this is so
hands it
scary.
back to him, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on in this scene?
You kick him out of the van at this point.
I wouldn't even let him in the van.
Right,
Let's get
first of
that.
all, yeah,
let's
yeah.
get that straight.
Right.
I'd be with Pam. I think she's the one that's like, no, he's weird looking. Like,
Even
no.
like
I don't even care if you're Adam Driver. I'm not letting you in my car.
That's your go-to for like somebody.
Who else am I gonna? Matthew Lillard. Like
Sure.
who else am I gonna say?
I don't know. But yeah, I love watching these other characters like Pam in the car because they just have this look on their face that's just like horrified the whole time, even though they're not saying anything.
Yeah, and none of them. Yeah, he pulls out a straight razor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like kind of slices it Franklin.
Right.
And it's this whole weird thing. He takes a picture of Franklin, sets it on fire.
Well, he takes a picture
He's
to sell
trying to
it
get
to
money,
him.
yeah.
But they say no, so he's like,
It's
all right,
weird.
I'll burn
So they
it.
finally like kick him out of the van.
It's about time.
He
He marks the car. I don't know if he does this to find them later.
I think this is bullshit. Why Franklin's so worried about the blood?
He's
being on
paranoid because he's like,
car.
there's blood on the car. Do you think he's following us? He's not.
He's not. He
But-
can't. He doesn't care.
Could you imagine? Again, this is another one of those things. It's like, this isn't
It never
resolved.
ties up.
He just does this. But yeah, so that was the Nubbin scene.
Okay, so it
Weird that we forgot about that.
parallels with how Kirk dies and gets bashed in the head.
Right.
Basically,
Just like the cattle.
Pam, not knowing what happened, she's just outside and she's saying like, Kirk.
Right. I'm sick of waiting on hearing this Evil Dead swing. I want to come inside.
Yeah, so she starts walking up. We get the iconic Pam butt scene.
Yeah. See her butt for a full, I want to say what felt like 10 seconds, but was probably more like
longer.
an hour for as many times as I rewound it.
So she walks in as well, kind of heads up that same hallway, turns and kind of goes through these curtains
Yeah.
and falls into this room.
Oh, it's a nightmare. And
That's
this goes on for a long time, but not in the good way.
Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time talking about this scene. The floor is covered in chicken feathers. First of all, nasty. I hate chickens.
I gotta think chickens are super diseased, right? Like, they're not
It's called
clean
chicken
animals.
pox.
There you go. That's
Bird
why they
flu.
call it that.
Yeah. No, there's only one chicken and there's so many goddamn feathers.
Well, there's also teeth on the ground. More teeth
there's
in here.
Bones. The
Bones.
furniture's made out of bones. There's like chandeliers made out of body parts.
Yeah.
And all this weird stuff. First of all I'm concerned with is that there's definite chicken shit under all those feathers.
Absolutely.
And she falls into it.
More importantly than the bones.
Yeah, so I was like, ew, E. coli.
Yeah, you're gonna get diseased.
Yeah. So then she does she even make it out of that room? I guess she does.
Yeah, she just gets up and runs out, but she runs into towards that door that Kirk walked through, and Leatherface shows up again.
Yeah. Basically, picks her up, drags her to the back. She sees Kirk's body that's like dead.
Yeah.
Or who knows if it's dead or
Right.
whatever.
She's just like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. She looks over. There's these 2 meat hooks.
Ooh, I hate this.
And Leatherface just hoists her up, slams her down on one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about movie history. Think about seeing that for the first time. This is the first
right.
horror movie
yeah.
that's like that.
All the horror movies before this point have been basically palatable in a way that's
mind benders.
right,
This is
psychological.
grotesque. like body mutilation.
This is kind of there's a movie called Blood Feast, which is also like very bloody at this time. I don't remember when that came out. I think it was around the early 70s, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But this movie was one of the big popular ones that did this.
But that's what I want to go and like be the person that's seeing that for the first time.
Yeah, and just be like, what am I watching?
Oh my God. Yeah. What is happening?
Yeah.
So she's on this meat hook. She's kind of screaming, but it's like not.
Right.
It's not what you would think that you would be like if you were hanging on a meat hook.
Probably not. And there's also no sound effect when he puts her up there. There's no like shink or anything.
Yeah, thank God. That would be too much.
Yeah.
Way too much.
So she's up
saved
there.
That for the reboot.
Yeah. She's up there. It kind of cuts. Leatherface grabs the chainsaw and starts hacking away
revs it
at
up.
Kirk. Yeah. Well, Pam's watching. It's very sick.
Yeah.
Very sick. But we cut from there, thank God. And we're back at the house.
Yeah, with Jerry, Sally, and Franklin.
Right. And Jerry's like, well, they've been gone a long time. I don't want to just hang out here.
I'm going to go look for them.
Again, we have no cell phones. We can't just call them.
Yeah. I honestly can't.
The world before.
If the apocalypse happens and the cell phones go out, I'm gonna be like, I'm done.
Even if it's not an apocalypse, even if just one day, like all the satellites.
No, don't say that.
We'll just be like, well, there's no point in continuing.
It'll be awful because I won't know where to go. I won't know how to get anywhere.
We should watch that TV show Revolution where there's no electricity.
No.
Or Evolution.
Anyway.
Yeah. So Jerry ends up going off. Very repetitive kind of scene. Where
I was surprised by this.
Yeah, almost the exact same thing happens. He just goes to the house.
He makes it all the way into the back room.
Without any Leatherface at first.
Yeah, where Kirk was being cut up. We don't see his body anymore. Pam's no longer on the hook.
Right.
There's like this big chest cooler. And you hear like this rustling around in there. And Jerry's like, oh, okay. Like lifts it open. There's Pam's body.
He's like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, this is a really weird scene. She just like jolts forward to like scare him.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a muscle spasm because you know how sometimes.
Like, yeah, do you think she's already dead?
I don't know.
I don't think she's dead yet.
I just think she dies like immediately after this. Or
who
something.
knows? That's when Leatherface comes in
and. He just hammer bashes him too. It's again very repetitive where he just boom, he falls to the ground. Maybe hits him once or twice more, but then you can kind of see Leatherface is like. You can see where like the mental illness aspect of this character comes out because he's not like fully cognizant of the situation. He's in panic mode. He's like, all these people are coming into my house. He's essentially like a child who's just scared and like, what am I going to do?
Right.
You could almost think of him as like a dog that's just like, I've been left alone. I'm scared. These intruders are coming in. I'm going to attack them. And then I hope no more show up.
Yeah, you're right.
Really great shot of him like sitting down and then the camera zooms in. And like watching this movie in now times, we don't really appreciate that when you went to see this movie originally, it was going to be super blurry and like you couldn't really see it that well until we have 4K resolutions on like HD TVs and everything. We can really see how good this effect looks.
Right. We get shots later of like Sally's eyes and you can see all the way up into the blood vessels. Like it's
awesome.
Truly good camera work for this movie. So Jerry dies.
Yep.
So now it's just Sally and Franklin.
It's nighttime.
And and they find out that Jerry had the keys to the van, so they can't even go anywhere. They're yelling, where are you? Where are you? Blah, 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 blah. Jerry!
Right. Oh, they scream for, again, another scene that feels like it goes on for 45 minutes is them screaming Jerry.
Or just like saying, I'm going to hold the flashlight. No, you're going to hold the flashlight. Like that goes on forever.
Because Sally's like, I'm going to go off to find him. Not a good idea.
And give me the flashlight. Franklin's like, no, don't go. I'll
go with you. And she's like, the hell you will.
You're in a wheelchair.
Right, I'm not rolling you down that hill. They end up rolling him down that hill because he goes, they both go together. They're out in the forest and they're looking and they're like, Jerry. And they don't find Jerry. They find Leatherface.
Yeah.
Shows up.
Just out of nowhere. Chainsaw revved.
Do you want me to get the chainsaw again?
No, okay. Stop. I honestly don't even like that it's in this room.
Oh, sorry.
And just comes and like just starts slashing at Franklin.
The only chainsaw kill in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first one. The only person to die by chainsaw.
Yeah, you're right. I guess it's because he like cuts up the rest of
and that's
bodies.
His signature weapon. He runs at you with the chainsaw.
Yeah, no, he doesn't run. He like stands there.
What are you talking about?
Holds the chainsaw up above his head and does it wiggle.
He does this little dance. Yeah. Well, that's more the second one that he does.
No, he does it in every single one, and
You're
it's
right.
so annoying. Like,
it's scary.
first of all, you're gonna drop it.
Okay.
You're gonna drop it on your head.
Good.
Yeah, but like, don't.
Right.
And you could just like fucking cut someone with it instead of threatening. It's not even threatening. I would never be threatened by somebody like holding a chainsaw over their head and like wiggling it. I'd be like, stop, you're gonna hurt yourself.
Okay, well, I think it's pretty scary.
I don't think it's scary.
Wow.
But
yeah, he kills Franklin. We begin the longest final girl chase sequence in movie history, where Sally...
well, first of all, she made like 2 huge mistakes in this movie.
All right, 2 mistakes, go. The first
of all-
one was being blonde in a horror movie.
No.
Okay.
First of all, it's nighttime, and it's not her fault. She didn't know
Yeah,
she was gonna. She didn't.
She could have done the Sundance if we're being fair.
No. She didn't know she was gonna be in a horror movie. So she's got these white pants on.
She got white pants that are, by the way, the Super 70s huge bottoms.
Bell bottoms.
Bell
yeah.
bottoms. That's where that comes from.
Yeah, and so you can see her anywhere in the dark.
She can't
because
hide.
those pants are glowing in the dark.
She can barely run, and she can't.
She also won't shut her fucking mouth.
She's a screamer.
She screams the entire time she's running. Now, if I was running away from somebody
What
in
would
the
you do?
dark,
Tell me.
I would literally just be hauling ass so hard that I wouldn't even be able to make a sound.
See, now you're giving away all your ideas.
What I'm gonna do.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like most people in situations that we see in horror movies wouldn't scream.
No.
Whenever I'm watching a movie or playing a game and something jump scares me, my first instinct isn't to go, it's like tense up.
Mine's like
and just go,
I'll tell you, because it's every time I see a frog.
oh.
It's like that's the noise.
Right.
And I did it yesterday
Uh-huh.
at work.
Tell me, please.
I went into the break room and my nose was running, so on top of the refrigerator, there's a box of Kleenex, and I pulled a tissue down, and I pulled my mask down.
What is it?
And I went to blow my nose,
What
and
did
there
you
was
see?
this stink bug on my tissue.
On the tissue. That's literally my worst nightmare is I'll grab a tissue and in the paper that I'm holding, a spider or something. Because that's going right to my face.
It was so close to my face. And I was so glad nobody was around because I literally went, and like dropped it, and I was like, oh my God.
And then you grabbed a chainsaw and you were like, die, bug.
Like, groovy. No.
Yeah, you attached it to your hand. You said groovy.
And just, so mine is always that, and
Right.
then, so no, I don't think I would be screaming. Yet, when we went to that escape room and we're at the very end,
yes!
and the door flings open and there's a chainsaw noise, what did I do that felt like an eternity? I literally was like,
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna die, so I stood there and yelled the entire time.
I love seeing the audio waveform of you doing that just now. Sometimes you scream. I think that was more you were having fun with your friends.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I literally thought I thought Leatherface himself from 2003 was coming through that door to get me. And I remember like hugging the wall and being like, just like screaming the entire time.
That one actually peaked.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah. I don't know that you would scream as much as Sally's
if she would
doing.
have shut her mouth, he wouldn't have been able to like follow her as closely.
Although I don't know if
think.
he can hear because this chainsaw is revving. How long can a chainsaw go
As much
on
as
gasoline?
it has, it depends on the thing.
I guess, yeah.
You'll have to ask Lefty from the next movie.
Right. He would know. I can't wait to talk about that. So he's chasing her. She runs into the house, like his house.
Yeah,
not
but she
knowing.
doesn't know.
Right. She just finds a house. It's nearby. She runs upstairs, as Sidney Prescott could tell you is a bad idea.
Yeah. She knew.
She knew. She runs upstairs and she finds this old, what you would imagine to be a corpse of this old man. He's not dead. We later learn.
Yeah.
But then she, can't help. So because he's basically a corpse. She ends up running away again out the door. She almost gets got by Leatherface. Runs out. She runs down back to this gas station that we saw earlier, where she's saved by the guy who runs it, who's there.
Right.
And Leatherface was chasing her, but kind of vanishes at this point. And he's not a quiet dude, by no means. So what, did he just like stop?
Well, I just think
turn the chainsaw
I
off?
think he thought, like, he got to the door and he's like, oh, she's going in there? Drayton will bring her back home.
I guess
like,
just wanders on home.
yeah.
So at first she's like, yay, I'm saved, because Drayton, the guy who runs this place, is there, and he's like, oh, what's going on now? What are you doing here?
I didn't know it was Bill Cosby.
Are you okay? Rudy!
Sally!
Sally, what are you doing out here? You want to buy some gas? But
How about some pudding pops?
how about some pudding pops? Thank you. This has been Impressions. So, but it turns out he's a bad guy. He's working with them.
He's part of the
He's
family.
part of the Sawyers, which they're not. Nobody has names in this movie.
No.
Not even Nubbins. Nobody is named. It's
No.
just the hitchhiker, the cook, Leatherface. I don't think he might be called that in the credits. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But
I think they say leather a couple of times.
okay, they definitely call him Leatherface in the sequel, especially with Chopped Up. It's like, oh, Leatherface, what are you doing? But so they're the Sawyers, and he's part of them. He ends up kidnapping Sally and bringing her back to this house.
Where they tie her up.
They tie
for
her
dinner.
up. Yeah, she's a guest. Is nice.
Yeah.
You
they
want
bring
your
Grandpa
friends-
down to meet her.
Grandpa he's in his Sunday best, and she's so ungrateful. They have the face lamp brought out
hangs up
that hangs
above
up on the
the
wall.
table.
That's like the face sewed up. They bring it all out for her. She doesn't care.
So Nubbins is there too. I don't know if we mentioned it.
Yeah,
so
he
we
comes
have
back.
Drayton,
Yeah, Drayton
Nubbins,
Sawyer,
the hitchhiker, Leatherface, and they've brought Grandpa the corpse down, who is supposedly like 140,
Yeah, sure.
46
He's
years old.
super old.
Yeah. That guy was played by a really young guy.
Right.
It's just always so funny to me that they do this.
Right. I don't know why, but they did it with Star Wars too, with Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah, like just cast an old guy.
Originally they cast a young person with makeup. So later on, when it came time for both of these franchises, do like a reboot or a prequel, whatever, they could cast the same people, and they're older
old.
now. And
It's genius, really.
it is, but I don't think they were
But
thinking
it's just like
of that.
it's like so random.
Maybe it's because they have smoother faces, so putting
you're
like the
right.
makeup on
I
is
guess,
easier than
maybe.
somebody who has wrinkles. I don't know. I'm no makeupist.
Anyway, they get to it, so they're like, you know what? You're gonna die.
Right. We know that. That's just a fact.
You're gonna die.
Right.
Let's have Grandpa kill you.
Let's have Grandpa kill. You know, he's the best at killing.
He's the best at killing.
He's
It
the
won't
best at
hurt
killing.
at all.
Yeah, he was the one who worked at the mine, the slaughterhouse, and he was the one who would use the hammer to like, bam,
To
bring
kill
it
the
down.
cows. Yeah.
So they're like, all right, Sally, why don't you come on over here, lean down over this thing, we'll
Over
bash
my
your head.
bucket.
Yeah, over my bucket.
You know,
Got my killing bucket.
normally I just have it full of water and apples.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what it looks like.
It
It's
is what
a
it is.
bobbing
By the
for
way,
apples.
bobbing for apples, disgusting.
It's so.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's so
grosser than
gross.
anything in this movie.
Don't do it tomorrow
Please.
for Halloween.
Right,
it's
right.
so nasty.
Or tonight. You can do it tonight, just not tomorrow.
Stop, because I can't
All right,
think about
breathe,
it too
breathe,
much
breathe.
because I did that at a party and you don't even think about that.
Yeah.
Blech.
Ugh. So Grandpa is not that good at killing anymore because he's so old. He's barely able to hold the hammer. And eventually
He does get a good whack on her.
he does. I think that's more he drops it though, because
Yeah.
it feels like the weight of
But
this
that's a
hammer
good shot. That looks
It
like
really
it takes
is.
like a fucking chunk
Oh,
out of
it's
her
gross.
skull.
She's bleeding. And Nubbins is like, let me do it. So he's trying to like switch because he's the one holding her over there.
Yeah.
He tries to grab the hammer. She uses this opportunity to get away, runs headfirst out the window. Like she breaks through it.
I think
Again,
this is like the second time she's ran through a window. in this
maybe
movie.
has. Right, because she jumped out of the second story earlier. Now she's
Right.
the first story. She just loves doing this. She's like, I can't feel anything anymore because I got hit in the head. It's like the Joker. Never start with the head.
Yeah,
the victim
pain
gets all fuzzy. And she runs out to the street. Leatherface is chasing her. He's also
Nubbins is also chasing.
right. They're both chasing her. Leatherface is now wearing like a suit. This is
He's been
weird.
wearing a suit.
Has he?
He had the apron over it in the beginning.
Oh,
That's why I'm always like, why the fuck is he wearing this?
I kind of love it though.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
Because I don't think he does that in the reboot.
No, I don't
think
think
he just
so.
has like nasty clothes
Right,
on.
right. But yeah, so
Yeah.
they're being chased. There's this huge semi truck that comes through, barrels down Nubbins. He gets run over by like 5 tires in a row. It looks awesome. Like his arms are going up.
Yeah.
It looks
And the
great.
semi-driver's, oh, he's hilarious.
He is, because he just gets out. He's like,
he gets
whoa!
out, sees that girl, then sees Leatherface is like a big fat nope.
Yep.
And like yoinks her in.
Yeah, he pulls Sally
Doesn't
in.
drive away.
I imagine this is like a panic thing. Plus, like to start the car maybe takes time, and like because Leatherface is coming at, he's like swiping at the door with the chainsaw.
Yeah, that's why I was scared. I'm like, oh, he's just gonna start driving and he's gonna cut through that door
and like
then
chop
they're-
my legs off or my chest and I'll die. So
Right.
instead they go out the other side. Ends up being a smart move because He hits Leatherface in the head with a wrench.
A monkey wrench.
A monkey wrench. Thank you for clarifying.
Well,
and
those monkeys will appreciate
that's
it.
true. Right. And
Shout out
to
the
the monkey
monkeys.
listeners. Hits Leatherface in the head. Leatherface falls down. His chainsaw falls onto his own leg.
Yeah.
Starts to chop it. Doesn't get all the way, but like the little piece of skin that like goes flying. It's probably the most gore you see in this movie. That isn't like just bones, but it is gross. And then he gets up and is chasing after Sally. The driver gets away.
He's just running.
Yeah, he's just books
He's running
it.
to this day. He's Forrest Gump. He's just
he's still out there.
He's just like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of Texas.
This is a bad state for me to be in. So there's another truck that comes up. Sally ends up stopping it and jumping on board.
Yeah, jumps in the back of it.
Classic, iconic sequence of her laughing as she gets away.
Crying and
laughing. Leatherface is dancing maniacally. He's like swinging the chainsaw all around.
Yep,
and
doing that wiggle dance.
Doing the wiggle dance. And then, boom.
Woo.
Credits. Classic movie, iconic in every way. Jodie's scared.
Yeah, it is scary.
Yeah. Well, that movie cemented kind of the idea of slashers and serial killers into the public in a way that Norman Bates kind of set this idea up for us. Mm-hmm. And I think Texas Chainsaw was them being like, this is what they're gonna look like in the future. And then Halloween was like the perfection of it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Halloween came out 4 years later, so let's talk about it. Jamie Lee Curtis is in it. Okay.
Go back to our old episode of
Right. We listened last year on Halloween.
Yes. We have a huge jump between the first one and the second one.
Right. 12 years pass.
Mm-hmm.
We did get nothing for 12 years. Imagine seeing this movie in the first one. Well, you don't really have sequel.
Yeah, I was going to say nothing's really a sequel.
Sequels aren't really that big. I guess they
ran out of, so that's when they ran out of ideas, was in 1986.
And they were like, I guess let's go back to Texas.
Yeah.
Let's fly down there.
So Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
I love this movie.
1986.
Yeah, this is a great 80s movie.
So Tom Savini did the makeup for this one.
Yes, Tom Savini.
It's apparent.
Yeah, you can really, really tell.
Yeah.
It starts off strong, too, because
we get these two assholes.
Oh, they're so annoying. This is my least favorite part of the movie.
They are. It's funny, it's Texas, because these are like California.
Oh, yeah, they're like surfer dudes almost.
Like up on the hilltops, Snob Hill livers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're drunk driving, they're shooting up signs and everything.
Okay, this guy has these glasses that are like, what do you call that?
Almost 3D, but they're kind of just tie-dye.
Holographic.
Right, they have like these eyes.
And let me tell you, I've had a pair of these glasses when I was younger. You cannot see shit out of them.
Well, luckily he's not the driver, so it's okay.
Yeah, but he's shooting. Mm-hmm. He has a gun. He's shooting at signs. Right. They're like hitting mailboxes. They're calling radio stations. And
we meet the DJ of a local radio station. Her name's Stretch.
Yep.
She's played by Caroline or Carolina. I think it's Caroline Williams. I really like Stretch as a character.
Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, she's really cool. She works with LG, the engine.
I love LG.
LG's great. With this hat. He kind of has a crush on Stretch. He keeps asking her out.
Who
She's
fucking
all like, no.
wouldn't?
Well, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very much like April O'Neil. That's the vibe I get from her.
She kind of is.
Not just because like she wants to be a reporter or whatever.
Right,
but,
and
like,
she does. She has
badass.
aspirations. Right. They call her. This is weird. How they call her. They're kind of harassing her, and she's just like, "Hang up."
The fact that you can't like hang up on callers for radio stations. It's crazy.
I feel like it's not just radio stations. I think old lines were like this because you would always see if the line disconnected, people would be like, "Hello," and then they would shutter they would twitch the thing, Yeah. And I feel like that was that. Yeah, you know what I mean. The hang up. What's it called? It's like the cradle. That's the word. They would shake the cradle because I think the connection would stay.
Did they rob the cradle?
I guess they did.
That's what I did. Anyway,
it's now the time. Yeah. I think the connection would stay as long as both parties were connected. Anyway, they call back later in the night. That's like a weird goof. Like, why not just have it be in the one scene? But whatever. The first time they were like harassing this truck, playing chicken with it, and then now that truck is back on this bridge. And at the same time, they're calling Stretch back. It's just awkward. Just have it be the same scene. But standing up in the back of this truck is this almost corpse. And I thought, watching this the first time, this is like a prank based on the first movie. People are like kind of scaring people with chainsaws because of this.
I knew it was like a real body.
Yeah. It's real.
Supposed to be a real body. I didn't know that it's Nubbins.
Oh, right.
From the first movie.
The body.
Supposedly, like,
right.
that's who it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I've read that. It's supposed to be Nubbins' body who's died he died in the first movie. But they have you'd think that his skeleton would be a
crushed.
Pancake. Yeah. But it's actually Leatherface, like, kind of wearing it in front of him.
Yeah, as armor or like
almost.
a costume or whatever.
He revs up his chainsaw. He starts swiping at these guys in their car because they're like driving next to each other. All while Stretch is on the phone, and she's like, "Hang up," because she doesn't want to be party to this.
Right.
She's like, "I don't want this. I don't want to be liable for this." Ends up killing the driver. Really great shot of
it's
his
really
head
cool.
falling off.
He like gets sliced across the forehead with the chainsaw, and it's just blood. And can you imagine being a passenger and then all of a sudden you're like,
"Oh, my driver's dead."
Yeah, the driver's dead. Like I'm gonna die for sure.
They end up crashing, and the next day, investigating the crime scene is none other than Dennis Hopper. He plays Lefty. This character is a treat. Yes, he's a delight to watch. At first, he starts off kind of like normal. Serious. And he just goes unhinged as the movie progresses. He's a detective. He's a cowboy. His name's Lefty. And he's investigating this massacre. He is the uncle of the Hardesty kids. He's the uncle of Sally and Franklin, right?
Who had went missing and, 13 years prior. Apparently, Sally had, like, told the story and then slipped into comatose.
Yeah, she's comatose, right.
Yeah.
So he's investigating this. He ends up getting the story put out in the paper. And Stretch sees this because he wants evidence. He's looking for any evidence because people just think this was a car accident that killed these two.
Right.
Lefty doesn't believe it. He puts the story out. Stretch sees it. She goes to him and is like, "Not only do I believe you, I also have the tape because I was recording it of them getting murdered by chainsaws." And they're like yelling and everything. So, do you want this? And at first he's like, "No, I don't believe you. Stay out of this."
It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's weird.
Ask for help and then don't take it. Okay.
Maybe it's because she's like a woman and he's like, maybe there's like some of that. I don't know exactly why.
Maybe.
Because there is some weird gender stuff in this movie.
Yeah, I guess.
So there's a scene, she ends up going to,
she goes to this like chili cook-off because she's doing just some like reporting, and that's what you do. She wants to be
a reporter. She wants to break in, so she's doing small stories.
And the winner of the chili cooking contest, which is the same guy, he wins like every year.
I hate when things like this happen.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, let's go and watch Drayton Sawyer win the chili cook-off.
Oh,
again.
That's who it is. Yeah. Drayton Sawyer.
He's like, everybody loves good prime meat. Every sentence ends with like
meat,
that. And meat. Yeah.
It's all, don't skimp on the meat.
Right. It's dudes.
It's humans.
The chili. It's people.
Yeah, because like the judges, she like pulls out a tooth.
Right, she does. She pulls out a tooth and he's like, we got some
one of those
pellets.
Those hard peppercorns.
Hard peppercorns, yeah.
Gross.
By the way, yeah, like I keep saying, this Jim Sedow, I think is his name, plays Drayton Sawyer.
Oh my god.
He's so much fun to watch because he just hams it up. He's like, "What are you kids doing over there? What's going on?" It's just so much fun. He just goes ham. So we get that scene. Then we get one of the funniest scenes in the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Where Lefty.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lefty, my boy, my darling Lefty. I love him to death. He goes to the chainsaw store. Now, he's been investigating these murders. He knows about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I guess he wants to get in the head of the killer and also arm himself in the way that be the killer, So instead of getting... Think like a killer. Instead of getting a gun, which I would say is probably a good weapon against somebody.
Hell, it's Texas. They're everywhere.
Right, you can find a gun. Pick it up off the guy who was shooting signs earlier.
Yeah.
He's dead. He's not using it. He instead goes and he puts a bunch of money on the table.
$800, I think is what I counted.
I think. Right, 8 or 9. And he goes and he gets this really long chainsaw.
Oh, it's enormous.
He doesn't say a word. The guy who owns the store is like,
can I help you?
It's all gassed up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a T84 or whatever. TI-84, like the graphing calculator. He doesn't say a word, though. He puts this thing down. He gets 2 more smaller ones and he starts thrusting them around. He takes all 3. He just leaves the money. he goes out and starts whacking on this log that's there to test out the chainsaws. Is this a real thing for chainsaw stores?
I'm sure it is.
I'm sure it is.
I don't think there's specifically chainsaw stores anymore.
Right.
At least not here in Michigan. Texas.
Who knows what's going on down
yeah.
there? Yeah. What are you doing, Texas? Austin's okay. And so he's hacking away at this log, and the guy who owns the store is just like having a great time too.
He's so
like
enjoying
laughing.
it. He's like, yeah,
yeah,
that's a good one.
that's a good one. Very weird, but so that scene happens. He's armed with chainsaws. He's got 2 small ones on the side and 1 big one.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, he meets up with Stretch again. Lefty does, and
Right.
he's like, "Okay, I want you to continuously play
Right.
the tape."
Call it a request.
Yeah, on your radio station to kind of fluff out the cops to say, hey, this is really happening, or to like get somebody riled up about it.
Yeah, whoever did this, maybe they'll like hear it and be provoked into doing something.
Right. She does
this. It's overheard. By the way, there's so many car phones in this movie. You can tell that this movie really wanted to exist when cell phones exist, just to like have people talk to each other.
Do you remember like car phones?
I never had a car phone.
I think the only thing that I ever wrote in that had a car phone was a limo.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember I think it was the Series of Unfortunate Events movie with Jim Carrey had a car phone, and that was my first time being like, why not just use a cell phone? Oh, because this was before times.
Yeah.
So, the Sawyers hear it. Drayton Sawyer is called by his brothers. I always thought that they were his kids.
No,
they're
brothers.
not. And he's like, you got to deal with this. Take care of it. We get.
So it's like 1:00 in the morning.
Right. They're still playing this tape.
Stretch and LG are there. LG's like, I'm gonna go get coffee.
Right. Stretch is alone. She hears a sound. She's like, LG, is that you? She goes out. It's not LG. Who is it?
It's not.
Who is it, Jen?
It's this
lunatic.
Yeah, this absolute bonkers guy.
This guy.
He's a far out fan.
He is a far out fan. He's got a vest that's full of buttons. It would be if Jennifer Aniston puts her to shame in Office Space. All this flair that he's got. He's got this mop of hair.
This wig, I'll tell you.
You were going on about this wig.
Well, because like you watch the whole scene and then you go to watch it again and you're like, what the fuck? He's got like this bowl cut wig. It's black.
Yeah.
But you can see in the back, it's like long hair that's tucked up under it.
Right.
Just buy a fucking bowl cut wig. Because later on it gets like kind of
knocked off and you can see that he's bald.
And the wig's like long. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Anyway.
I think it's just the slapped together nature of these characters.
I guess. He doesn't like really introduce himself at all. He's just like, I heard your, taking requests. I love what you have.
He's like, I'm a big fan.
Meanwhile, he has this like metal hanger. He's setting it on fire, getting it really hot, and like scratching his head with it, and then like picking off whatever's stuck to it and eating it. So you're like, what the fuck?
This guy is weird.
He's played by Bill Moseley.
Have we? I don't think we've talked about him before.
I don't think so.
He's in a lot of horror stuff.
Yeah. So he's like, I want a tour. I'm a
weird sounds that he's making.
That's pretty much it.
Really is.
So she's like, we're closed.
Right. Yeah, we're
Bye.
closed. You have to get out of here. And he's like, well, aren't you going to show me the records room? Jody.
Not really. He doesn't say
I know,
that.
But
did you see me jump when we watched?
Yes, I did. This is legitimately the greatest jump scare, I want to say, in film history that I've seen.
It got me good. And it wasn't just like a loud noise.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was not a cheap jump scare. It was like very much earned because you don't see it coming. It's not built up to in a real way.
Right.
They flick on the light, and as soon as the light comes on, Leatherface is there with his chainsaw, which is going.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works.
I assume the idea is he turned it on right at the same moment, but whatever. It's fake because like it wouldn't happen like that, but I love that it does because it's such a good jump scare. He chases her into this room where she hides behind a sliding door, just like Leatherface did in the original
one. Yeah,
right, a metal one. So it's I think an homage to that.
Yeah, he can't get through.
He can't get through with his chainsaw because it's too.
LG comes back
with his coffee.
So now
Poor
Chop
LG.
Top is this freakazoid's name because he's got like this like metal plate from Nam.
From Nam, he went to Nam, yeah.
Nam Land.
Nam Land.
Do people who say it's horrible?
What a weirdo.
We should not make fun of people who
No,
have
absolutely not.
PTSD from the Vietnam War or
any
whatever.
war.
But like, I used to have this coworker, and she would always say like. She would always, when she was talking about like things back in the day, and she's my age,
Yeah.
she'd be like, back in Nam.
Yeah, right. We used to make jokes like that too when we were younger. Like, back in Nam, that was like the joke that you made.
Yeah. So don't make fun of veterans.
No,
it's
don't
rude.
Don't make fun of anybody unless they deserve it.
Like fucking Chop Top.
Chop Chop is, he's a weirdo.
Yeah, so he's got this metal plate,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got zinged by the chainsaw, which, I think that would kill you.
Probably. I can't imagine it would feel good.
It would vibrate your brain, like, and it would
Right.
die. Anyway, he's beating the shit out of LJ, just bashing his brains in.
Yeah, somehow this doesn't kill him.
I don't know.
So he's taking care of him. Meanwhile, we get what's arguably the weirdest scene in these movies.
This is weird.
They go to Leatherface breaks through not the door but the wall and is about to kill Stretch, but she's able to stop him by appealing to his incredibly warped sense of sexuality.
Yeah.
This scene is very much the chainsaw, the weapon is a phallic symbol. Like, this is what this scene is about, because it's like getting really uncomfortably close to her genitalia region.
Right.
And she's all like, oh, wow, you're really good or whatever. Just trying to keep him like...
not killing
from
her.
not killing her. And it's working in like a really warped way. And eventually he just gets so flustered, he just runs away. Not before doing his dance again.
Yeah,
His
no
wiggling
kidding.
dance.
The dance is ridiculous.
He destroys her set.
Stupid.
And as somebody who does does podcasts and audio stuff, I don't appreciate this like destruction of audio equipment. Be respectful, Leatherface. Anyway, he runs away, and so Stretch is like, "Oh, we can't let him get away." They take LG's body, throw it in the back of their truck.
Right.
She's been waiting.
But she didn't know that LG was even there.
No, she didn't. She just sees that they're about to get away. She's been waiting on Lefty because the idea was Lefty would come after they play this tape and keep her safe. He never showed up. So
Fucking Lefty.
I know, seriously. She jumps into her thing, follows them to this like memorial for, it's like kind of an attraction, a theme park almost for some
decrepit.
some weird old Alamo style battle or whatever.
Some old Texas shit.
It looks like there's all these like arches that look like in Breath of the Wild and Zelda with like the big Leviathan bones. They're just like these giant bone rib cages almost like dinosaur bones.
Right. She basically, and Lefty meets up with her there because he followed her.
Right. He used her as bait to kind of lure them out, which is
rude.
Yeah. He says like, "I'm sorry, I used you, baby girl. I'm sorry." He calls her something to me. He's like, "I used you. I'm sorry, darling," or something. I'm just like, no,
I think that's a Texas.
Probably.
A Texas thing.
Texas thing. I don't love it. But she ends up falling down like a trap door, and she ends up in this just nightmare labyrinth
of decay.
So the original movie was described as, the idea was it was an inverted, dark, twisted version of a fairy tale, with like this main character kind of descending into this nightmare land, kind of like Alice in Wonderland, but more horrific and nightmarish. I think that much more strongly applies to the second movie, because she follows them in. She's not kidnapped. She goes there willingly. Yeah. And like with the dance scene with Leatherface, I think it just fits a lot more with the fairy tale. And like the dinner scene in this one is much more like like over the top.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like it fits a lot stronger with this movie.
It's crazy. She falls down in there. She like lands by all this pile of yuck.
Yeah, it's gross.
They have dragged a body in. Leatherface is skinning this person. Skins part of his leg, part of the chest, takes his face off.
Hangs it up.
Is like, this is gonna be my new mask. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And then she like stupidly like makes this noise. He finds her and he's like, oh, like Leatherface, and he's like, I like you.
Right.
I don't want them to know that you're here.
They'll kill you and eat you.
So I'm gonna put what she doesn't know is LG's face.
Yeah.
On you.
Mm-hmm. It's
to disguise you.
sick. I was literally the first time I watched this again down in this very basement over in.
Stop.
I literally had just this face on the whole not like LG's face, but just this disgust on my face because it's so gross. But in a really cool way. It looks very cool.
Yeah.
Like he puts his hat on her. She's got this hair. Everything about it just looks really cool. And they dance.
Yeah, right. And he is like, stay here.
He ties her up.
He doesn't talk. He's like, stay here.
He's like, please, Stretch, stay. Yeah. I'm in love with you, Stretch.
Yeah, no. And he runs away. LG wakes up.
Not dead. Still alive.
There's no way.
There's no way.
He's been skinned. He's been beaten.
He's been dragged to hell. There's no way.
And he's like, Stretch, is that you wearing my face?
Yeah, what are you doing wearing my face? Give me that back.
He makes it to where he cuts her free of the rope.
Right.
And that's it. And then he dies.
He just dies. He dies. He's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then dies. She puts his face back on, which I guess you would have to do.
Right.
And then she runs away. There's this really extended sequence of her trying to escape. This is where we get the Nom Lands. Because all three Sawyers are just kind of wilding out at this point. Oh,
they're crazy.
Meanwhile, upstairs, Lefty he's come in. He's pissed. This is where he goes into full wacko mode because he's sawing this place down, being like, bring it all down, bring it to hell. He's sawing this place up. The last half of this movie is all this. Yeah,
it's just cutting walls down.
Yeah.
Running, finding people. They realize she's there. We get a chainsaw fight from Lefty and Leatherface. Lefty gets a really good one on him. Sticks his really long chainsaw all the way through him.
He's got this thing, and he's moving around with it for a little while too.
Right, and I think Drayton gets cut at one point. He grabs Nubbins' body and
he has a grenade
and just pulls
which checks out. Yeah, and he kills everybody apparently,
including Grandpa, who was there. Which they had another dinner scene where they did the same goddamn thing and tried to kill Stretch. Meanwhile, Stretch and Chop Top have run up the mountain.
Stretch is just trying to get away. She was saved by Lefty, and then she's trying to run away. Chop Top's following her. They're the only two left. It ends up being, they find Grandma.
Yeah.
Grandpa and Grandma.
The shrine of Grandpa, or Grandma, yeah.
She's got a chainsaw, which can't be operational.
No.
But she pulls it, she's able to use it, and is able to use it to get away from Chop Top. Sends him down the mountain, and she's at the top of it. She does the dance.
She does the wiggle.
Wiggle dance, yeah. And it's kind of, again, an inverse of the first movie.
I think that's dumb.
I don't.
Because it's just this girl, she's sensually dancing with this chainsaw. I think it's super dumb.
I guess, but I like it because it's a twist on the first one.
Yeah.
So that's the second one. I like that movie a lot. You're not as warm on it as I am.
It's just a lot of the same.
There's a lot of that.
Chop Top just makes me what?
Yeah, he's weird. So that's the second movie. We're not going to go beat by beat for the rest of them.
Absolutely not.
They're not worth it.
We're going to... You take the time and watch them, audience.
I will say the third one has Viggo Mortensen in it.
Yes! Viggo! Himself.
Yep.
Aragorn.
And then the fourth movie, which I wish that we had time to get into, but it is a wild, wild movie.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey.
All right. Which he actually says in this movie. He does say
in the movie. I was waiting for it because it's a meme, but I didn't expect it to happen. Renee Zellweger is in the movie. She's hardly a character. She's ostensibly the main character, but this movie is trash, though.
It's more of just Leatherface's family.
Yeah,
and
different family each time at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of them have dinner scenes. All of them have girls that run around, run through windows, and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's the same movie every time. But notable is just Matthew McConaughey's performance in this movie.
Oh,
he goes beyond full Lillard.
Oh yeah,
he goes Lillard
full
plus.
McConaughey, which is just a different. It's apples and oranges. They're just so different.
I love it though. It's so much fun to watch. It's exhausting.
It's very entertaining.
Yeah, he's just whoa, you gotta go. I'm just screaming and pointing.
That was a great impression.
Thanks. It is so much fun, but we don't have time to. Oh, Ken Foray is in either this one or the third one from Dawn of the Dead.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah. So that's fun. These movies are not that. They're not good, especially not that one. They're not really worth talking about that much.
No, not really. The series then lay dormant
Yeah.
For a little
I
while.
want to say that one came out in 90, 91?
95.
95, okay.
97, 95.
Right. And then there was a break until...
2003.
And then...
This is when we had the reboot.
Right.
This movie's pretty important, I think.
It really is in the grand scheme of things because...
This kicked off remakes.
It did, yeah. There was not... there were horror remakes before this, but this was like the first of the big craze that would see a Friday the 13th remake, a Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah.
All of them.
Right.
It was also right before Saw and Hostel.
Right, it was before
very,
those movies.
very important to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Because this movie is gross.
It is. But it wasn't playing off of the grossness of movies that came before. Movies today are like, oh, that they're just doing a Saw or a Hostel. Instead, this was like...
No, this was just like, what is happening in this movie?
Right.
That's what shook me to the core as well.
You weren't used to seeing that.
No. And I hated watching horror movies when I was younger because my cousins would make me.
Yeah.
So and this was just something completely different. Like, This was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
This is probably where all my body mutilation, stems from, honestly. Because, there's a ton of it in this movie.
Yeah.
I'll just touch on, the most, the parts that everybody knows this movie for.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they know Jessica Biel's in it.
Yep.
They know that the first guy that dies... Leatherface takes his face off.
Oh, yeah.
Skins him, makes a mask out of it, and then wears it and torments the guy whose face it is, his friends and girlfriend.
Yeah, I don't think he did it to torment them.
But it does.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
It's also the only time he wears a face that is, recognizable still. Every other, mask
it's just,
that he wears
pieces
is just,
of it or whatever. But, this...
Yeah, it's disturbing.
That's what is scary.
It's very disturbing.
And I don't want to think about it, but someone else wearing your face.
Don't think about it. It's very easy not to do.
Yeah. It's like that. We also get this other scene where Andy, the surfer dude, is running through the clotheslines and stuff like that.
More clotheslines.
And Leatherface is behind him, chops his leg off. We see it.
Yeah. Ugh.
He then gets dragged down into the basement. Another iconic scene that you hate. I know you hate it, where it's the nails on the sides of the wall.
I can't stand nail stuff. Nail stuff and teeth stuff. Blah.
Teeth stuff don't bother me.
Yeah.
And then he gets hung on a meat hook.
Yeah.
Not only does he get hung on a meat hook, he then gets a bunch of fucking salt stabbed up in that wound.
Really drives home the humans treated as cattle.
Yeah,
angle.
it's just oh.
Yeah.
Brutal.
It's gross.
Yeah, the beginning of this movie, we get a different type of hitchhiker. Yeah, this one's fucked up as well.
I thought the movie was going in a different direction than what it went, and I would have really liked it because we meet this hitchhiker who's obviously been through some shit and is very traumatized, ends up killing herself in the car, and this sets up this whole thing with the chief of police coming in later.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, what's his name? Chief Hoyt. Right. And he's messed up character. He's very disturbing. He's
scarier than Leatherface most
probably,
of the time.
Yeah. He's played by R. Lee Ermey, who's probably most famous for Full Metal Jacket, where he plays...
No. If I saw Full Metal Jacket, I'd be like, no.
I know, you would.
Sheriff Hoyt.
Right. Most people would know him from that. He was I think he was the drill sergeant that swore all the time.
Probably.
But he ends up kind of just harassing these kids that call him because they're like, this person just killed themselves in our car.
Yeah. Mentally fucks up Morgan, who's the Jerry of the original.
He's got the same kind of hair.
Yeah, just hands him the gun and is reenact what that girl did so I know. And
sit in the spot.
And pushes him to where Morgan turns the gun on him and goes to shoot and the gun doesn't go off.
Right, because there's no bullets. It's a gross scene.
Yeah, Morgan goes through a ton of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Gets hit in the face with a bottle.
Ouch.
Yeah, face down in the dirt. Gets hung up at the end by Leatherface and sawed up the middle.
Yeah, ugh. It's the opposite of what happens to the entity from the final Evil Dead movie.
Right.
Chainsaw down the middle. Anyway, yeah, so what else about this movie?
We go to a meat plant in this one.
Right, we finally get to see one of these.
We get our final girl, Jessica Biel, she hides in a real cow carcass.
Yeah, yeah.
And Leatherface, like, saws up the back of it. That's a terrifying scene.
It is.
But like I said, I just have so much trauma from this movie. I could recite it, and I've honestly only seen the whole thing 2 times. And I don't even know why I watched it the second time.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
You have it burned into your brain.
It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I do, now that I think back about it, it's just like, wow, this came out before Saw, which just kicked off the whole torture porn. And then Hostel, Eli Roth.
Oh my God, Eli Roth, what are you doing there?
He's such a good-looking guy that you would never think that he would have to think this hard.
You would just see, you would see him and be like, oh, he's like a normal dude, and then you watch one of his movies and you're like,
what the fuck, Eli?
Yeah, what are you doing back there? So it ends with Jessica Biel getting away. She ends up saving this kid that, by the way, she runs into like the Hewitt family. They're Hewitts now.
Not Sawyers.
They kidnapped a baby, so she kidnaps it back. But she's like rescued at one point by this other semi-truck driver. And I thought the movie was going in a direction where she was going to kill herself the way the first Hitchhiker did. And the idea was this was a never-ending cycle.
Ooh.
Like, it would just set up this next group of people that would, final girl would kill herself, etc. But no, she kidnaps this baby. She ends up running over
Sheriff Hoyt.
Thank
good. God.
Yeah, good.
3 times.
Right. I ran him over 3 times. You were doing the same thing? Yeah. And she gets away. Good.
The most important thing that makes this movie scary is the beginning and the very end. We have old police footage that is exploring the Hewitt house. It starts that way. The sheriff's like, okay, this is the date and blah, 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 blah. We're going to go down here. You can see that there's scratches on the walls from blah, blah, blah. And then it just like goes into the movie. It ends and it wraps up and it's like, okay, down here we have, looks like a cellar, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden Leatherface just attacks that sheriff, which means he's still out there.
Right.
Which is scary because apparently he's in Wisconsin is what I thought.
Right. He's around, yeah.
I was like, he's so close.
Yeah. It's almost like a found footage movie in those parts, which is very scary.
I don't like it.
It puts you right in it.
I do not like it.
Yeah, it's a scary movie. And that movie was, I want to say, it was a pretty big success.
Yeah.
It really did kick off, like, both a very grittier, disgustinger kind of horror movie.
And we've said before, during our Saw episode, that, like, this is after 9/11.
Yeah.
And, like, people needed something to blame. They wanted to be angry. They needed to see something that was more gruesome than what they were seeing on the news, which was horrific at the time.
Yeah. So they needed
it all ties into that.
It really does. Go check out our Saw episode for more. So a couple years later, we got a prequel movie, which kind of just touched on...
Yeah, sets up this timeline.
Right.
That's all that movie is.
Yeah.
It looks pretty scary.
The only good thing I think about this movie is that it shows us that Hoyt is not a sheriff. He's just some dude that
he
killed the sheriff. And it's just such a small town that I guess nobody noticed. It's unbelievable, to be sure, but I like that twist that he's just some dude who killed the sheriff.
It carries that same type of thing. There's a character that doesn't have legs in the 2003 one, and you find out why he doesn't have legs, and it's because Hoyt was just like, come here and saw these off.
It's like, oh, your leg's wounded? I'm going to torture you by, like, hey, cut his leg off. Oh, we accidentally nicked the other one. Got to take that one too. Like, it's just gross and depraved for the sake of itself, and I don't care for it. But then the series stopped there until we got another reboot, which is what I had seen, which was the 3D one.
Right. In 2013.
I don't like movies that are 3D when they don't need to be.
Dumb.
It's so dumb. Movies like this don't need to be 3D. Essentially, there's this girl, Heather, who...
Right. This movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D.
Right.
Is a direct sequel from the very original movie in 1974.
Kind of like Halloween 2018.
Does for Halloween.
Right. It's just like we're ignoring everything but the first one.
Right.
So... Heather finds out that she's inherited her old family's home. She didn't know that she was adopted. She was back in Texas. She goes down there, meets Leatherface, who she's like cousins with. She finds out and ends up kind of taking Leatherface's side. Like
in the end of it, yeah.
Because there's this whole thing about the Sawyers, and there's this other family that there's this rivalry between.
The Hartlands.
Right, the Hartman, is it?
Something.
So they're the bad guys in this movie, and Leatherface was almost just incidental to the plot of it, and so she sides with them.
Well, it just really shows that, like, regular humans are the worst.
Yep, that's true. Yep, humans are the real monsters.
Yeah.
And that's that movie. And then there was another movie that came out
in 2017,
which is like part of the same timeline, but is a prequel to both movies.
Yeah, that one's just called Leatherface.
Leatherface. I like this movie a lot.
It's so different.
It's so different.
But it just has ties. It's kind of like the Evil Dead remake, reboot, inspired by thing. It's just like so different.
So different.
That like...
Essentially, what you have in this movie is like a group of mental patients, one of whom is Leatherface.
Will become Leatherface.
And they're escaping. There's a really cool fake out where you think...
It's going to be this one character
who's... Hodor from Game of Thrones,
yes,
like young
Hodor.
Really cool. But he ends up dying, and it's a huge twist because you're like, whoa, that's obviously Leatherface, but it's not. It's like somebody else who
this little nerd,
this little pipsqueak of a guy who I guess becomes Leatherface. They kill the final girl in this one, which I always
just like.
Yep, chop her head off. It's crazy. I always love when that happens, just because the balls.
Yeah,
the balls.
The absolute balls. The balls. Anyway, sorry.
Don't keep going on that.
No.
And that's where it is now. There's going to be another one. I want to say next year, but
I won't watch it.
I'm going in theaters. I
literally have to have Alex screen all of these. They're too much for me.
Yeah. Who knows when that's going to happen though because of coronavirus. I don't know if filming has begun or ended. Who
knows?
We'll see. But that's the movies that exist as they are today. If you're going to watch any of them, go see the Matthew McConaughey one.
Oh my
Please.
God.
I need more people to watch this. I'm amazed this isn't talked about more as like bad movies because it is so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah. I just think we take it because it's Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger and we're just like, well, it can't be bad.
Right.
They're in it.
Yeah, they're famous, right?
Right?
So, anything else you want to talk about before
I think I've said that's what makes it scary more times in this episode than I've ever have in this entire podcast.
Right. To get into a little bit more of it,
we
obviously Leatherface is terrifying. He's big and imposing. He wears human skin on his face, and that's just like the way his face looks is scary. It's a warped portrayal of a person's face. The chainsaw is just such a loud tool to use. This was the first time you think of...
Yeah, I never really thought about that, but it definitely is. It's like the only thing that has a noise to it.
Right. It's the first time a power tool was used as a serial killer weapon. And now when you think about serial killers, a lot of the time you're either thinking of a knife or you're thinking of like...
claws.
Yeah, like garden tools or something. Like something that...
A hook.
Yeah, something that'll... Yeah. So, that's what makes it scary, but there's also a lot of stuff about how humans are treated in these movies, because human bodies are treated like they're disposable in this, and that is terrifying to think of as a person who doesn't like pain. Because, like,
right.
People have talked to death about how a lot of this movie is talking about how we treat cattle. And it treats humans like that.
The meat industry.
The meat industry, right. It, like, clubs people over the head like we did. It hangs people up on meat hooks. It salts the wounds and packages them.
It bleeds them out, skins them, wears them.
Wears them, like we
do with furs.
Right,
I don't, but yeah.
Yeah, people do. So it's like you wear these animals. They're wearing humans. They're eating humans. Then they're treating them like animals. And that's terrifying because we think of human life as like just the most sacred thing, or at least you should. And that's scary. There's a lot of stuff about twisted, perverted versions of classic family values.
Yes.
Especially...
This is what... gets it for me.
Yeah, the final sequence in the first movie, the dinner scene, it's like it's for all intents and purposes a classic family dinner. It's everybody sitting down for this family dinner, but it's so twisted and so horrific that it just really makes your brain go, I'm seeing something evil that shouldn't be evil.
Right, and you had said when we were watching this, like, how scary this one girl is trapped with all of these men, and, like, that's what makes it scary. And I said, no. Like, later on, they have dinner scenes where they have women there also, and it's always the final girl. And I'm like, that's scarier because, like, there is, like, a girl code out there of, like, help me.
You expect to be helped if you've...
Exactly. Women have this code to where if you're out in public or like you're at a club or something like that and a woman comes up to you and like starts talking to you and you can just feel it. They're like, hey, I'm either being watched or hey, I want to be away from this person who's looking at me or whatever. And you just go along with that. Sometimes they're out to get you, so be careful.
Right.
But like that's what it is. So
You're
like
right.
so to have a woman in a scene like that and have that woman be on the side of the cannibals, you're just like, okay, fuck that.
Yeah.
So that's what makes
You're
those
right.
scary.
You're absolutely right about that. That is scary. This was a very deliberate choice, though, to have no women in this scene.
I get it, yeah.
When you think about 70s traditional family values, the reproductive angle was a huge part of it. The housewife who takes care of the nurturing one, the one who raises people and teaches them not to be psychopaths, that's the mother. And the fact that there is no female presence in this home is another twist on that idea. So while it is you're right, it would be scarier to have that woman who's like, I'm not helping you, I'm part of this.
Yeah.
It's also part of what makes it so twisted.
The original, yeah. So.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff to discuss in these movies. Lots of different ways they're scary. Obviously, Leatherface has gone through many different interpretations as different ways that he's scary.
Right. The reboot tells the story about why he does this.
Oh, right.
Because he's so disfigured. We actually see it in the reboot. You never really see it in the early movies. He could just be like a weird looking dude.
You kind of get the impression that he's a little not. He's
because his teeth are like messed up or whatever. It's fucking Texas. Like, what are you gonna do?
Okay, wow. Anyway, so that's what makes it scary.
That's what has made it scary, and you can see that it's traveled through time and time again. Every haunted house that you go to, what does it end with? A chainsaw.
Chainsaw, like a chase to the exit through a chainsaw.
And like you said, it's a big, loud noise. You fucking did it to me at the beginning of this podcast.
Oh, you want me to do it again?
No.
Okay.
It gets people.
It does, because, I mean, noise, especially loud noise, you associate with
danger.
We've talked about bears so much because, like, bears and wolves are such natural human emotions of predator that, like, if something is giant and chasing you and loud, your brain goes into extreme haywire mode. And it's like, I need to get away because I'm going to die. I'm in panic instinct mode. Like, with Leatherface chasing you, like a bear chasing you, you're just like, I gotta get the hell out of this situation at any means necessary. So that's what makes it scary, and that's what makes it scary. Season 2.
That's what's made 2020 scary.
Oh wow, yeah. We've talked so much about like infectious things. We talked about zombies, vampires, werewolves.
Right. We've had many instances of your body not being your own.
Yeah. Your body being taken over. It's not safe to go outside because there's danger out there.
Body mutilation, dismemberment.
Yeah.
Like, just all these themes this season that we've had, they all kind of tie in together.
Yeah. This has been a really fun season. I'm going to miss doing this show.
We watched so many
so many goddamn movies. I'm going to be really excited to get our time back.
Yeah.
And just be able to just relax.
I've had a great time, though. I'm super excited for Halloween.
Yes.
I hope everyone stays safe.
Please, stay safe out there.
Like,
all this talk of horror and bad things happening to people, we don't want it to happen to you.
Right. Wear your mask.
If
you go trick-or-treating, like, just, come home, fucking take a Lysol wipe. Just wipe down that candy. What would it hurt? Nothing.
Just be careful. It's still wrapped when you do it.
Yeah.
Don't wipe down your open candy.
Yeah, don't take open candy from strangers.
Yeah, absolutely. Just even without coronavirus, that's just not a good idea.
Yeah, be safe, people. We care about you.
We do.
We try our best to do what's right and follow the rules. And so we hope you have a spooky Halloween.
Right. And happy holidays. And
have a nice rest of the year. Next time you see us, we'll be married.
We'll be in our own house. This is the last episode we're doing in this room.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. This is a terrifying room.
It is. So yeah, we'll see you next year, I guess.
Right. If you want to keep up with us, what we're doing throughout the year, we have a non-seasonal podcast that hopefully, once we get our new house, which we're super close to.
Hell yeah.
We will be recording more. That's
Right.
Peeves and Q's podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Peeves and Q's.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to follow What Makes It Scary, because we do post stuff throughout the year, you can follow that at Makes It Scary.
Yep.
You can find me on Twitter at CleverGirl, the letter F and the letter X.
I'm at Mr. spelled out the long way, red2342. And if you're still listening at this point, here's a special treat for you. We're probably going to be releasing best ofs for our first 2 seasons in the interim time between the episodes. So those are going to come out. We're not sure when, so make sure you follow us for that. And yeah.
So stay safe out there, and remember, it's either sex or the saw. Right?
Yeah, that's great. That's good. I like it.
Okay.
We're done! We did it, Jody. What makes it scary?